Hello and welcome to Raptors Today. Randy Urban alongside Ashley Dawkin and Paul Jones. Lots to talk about today. We were talking about it already. The Raptors lose in overtime to the Denver Nuggets, 127-125.
Is that the portion they have to pay for to hear that before the camera goes on?
Yeah.
They got to pay for that, right?
Ashley, let's start. Where do you want to start? I'm going to leave it open to you guys. No question. Get something.
Not mailing in the hosting duties already, Randy. No questions, just vibes. But I think that is kind of the equation for the Raptors this year is going to be like, what is the energy? What is the effort level? And then will that result in some positive scores, some positive wins, and maybe even against a team like Denver, where if you looked at the schedule, you wouldn't have it circled as a win. But really, the Raptors took them to the brink, and it was an all-out effort. Of course, there's going to be growing pains. We're early in the season. We have players taking on new roles. We're looking for continuity. You have RJ Barrett coming back into the mix. There's a lot going on with this group. But again, there's no moral victories, especially this early in the season. But this team is going to be predicated on their energy and their effort.
Felt like they were going to get that one, though.
Yeah,
I did believe.
Up 10,
2 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Up 8, a minute and a half. Yeah. And you're at the point where you need to help them beat you. Mm-hmm. And I felt...
It's a great way of looking at it.
And that's that is always the way. I mean, again, a lot of stuff in basketball goes back to philosophy. And philosophically, for me, I always look at it like that. You know, down 10, 5 minutes. Back in the day before the 3, 5 points, 5 baskets, 5 minutes. We're still in this thing. And that doesn't count the 3 ball. That's old school mentality. Mm-hmm. But you're up 10 with 2 minutes to go. Mm-hmm. You're up 8 with a minute and a half. You need to help them. And I just felt that the thing that had killed the Raptors so far in this young season reared its head in the fourth quarter, and that was the turnovers. And not just turning it over, but when you turn it over, you don't get a shot at the basket. You don't get a chance for an offensive rebound. You don't get a chance to kill some time, maybe score and get back and set your defense. So I just thought it was inopportune. And you could see on the other side, let's not forget who they were playing, a team that isn't very far removed from a championship. And it's like, we're down 8, a minute and a half. Okay, we've been here. And you guys are young, so we'll see what happens. And they just constantly, like, they got to stop. Nothing fancy. Get it inside to the big guy. We're going to score close to the basket, and then we're going to force you to score.
It was like Jokic was, when you're like having some snacks on the couch, and you realize you need a drink, so you hold off as much as you can, and then your mouth's so dry, you're like, all right. Like, that's what it felt like Jokic did. He's like, all right, gosh, it's going to be me again. No problem. I got you guys.
Yeah.
And also to your point too, Jonesy, I think the execution towards the end of the quarters in the second half. In the first and second, they were okay. And then in the third and fourth, whether it's stamina, whether it's just the small details, they weren't executing to the level that they needed to.
And that's a young team, right, Ash? Randy, that's a young team. And Randy, to your point, and maybe it was one of the points we made before we turned the cameras on, it's early in the year. And a lot of times, like you said, Randy, you felt like you should have had that one. Mm-hmm. At the beginning of the year, there's no hierarchy or pecking order or the good teams think they're good, and teams that people look at as bad teams don't know they're bad or don't feel they're bad. And, people look at Toronto as, well, it's rebuilding. It's not going to be a great... That was a winnable game last night.
Yeah, and I know everybody wants to discuss this, so let's get into it. Did you like the 3-point attempt from RJ? Or do you like the non-timeout call by head coach Darko Sound?
Again, I'll go back to philosophically. I am totally fine with no timeout, a broken floor situation.
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with the 3 because he took it enough time. They had not 1 but 2 tips at it. Mm-hmm. Now, the other side of me says, well, if you take the timeout to try and get organized, now you're playing 5-on-5. Mm-hmm. And, you get your offense set, but they get their defense set too. I would have thought maybe RJ on his left hand had some more time, and if he chose to, and I have no problem with the shot.
A lot of space down there, waiting for him.
Bucket,
if he chose to, he gets to the bucket, and that is, maybe he gets fouled, maybe he challenges Jamal Murray, who's back there. But again, I have no problem, and if he said, I'm going to, and he did say in the news conference, I'd take that 3 again, I'm like, okay, I'm okay with that.
I think
It's the new improved RJ.
I love that. First of all, I love that he came in after missing some time and initiated contact, was fearless, because when you have a player who's coming back from injury, you hold your breath a little bit, wondering how they're going to absorb that, especially shoulder, especially somebody who, as you guys mentioned, loves to go to the bucket. So I really love to see that off the jump.
Gordon, hold that.
In particular, though, with that play at the end of the game, it's not as though the Raptors had been effective off timeouts and inbound plays. It was like 2-3 opportunities they had throughout the game to execute in those moments, and they did not. So what are we going back to that for? You have a player who is one of the best on your team. You trust him with the ball. He has it, as you mentioned, on the left side, pulls up, and quite frankly, 9 times out of 10, Jakob Poeltl times that rebound correctly, but it was tipped before he could get there first.
But they had 2 tips.
But I'm saying I trust him to get those under the bucket as well. And so it was just an inopportune moment on top of the miss.
And if you had called a timeout, you would have said, let's try to go with a chance to give us an offensive rebound in case we miss. It was all the elements were there.
And I think his three-point shooting has improved, and I think it has given him confidence for that. But when you sit in the corner and bury a 3, or if on a swing you bury a 3, it's a lot different pulling up in transition at 3/4 speed. That's one of the toughest shots in basketball.
I'm okay with the decision, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I talked to other NBA people about the game, and they said,
Not us.
No, actually, I feel. Can we get also a name drop counter for Jonesy? Anytime he's talking to somebody, just put a ding on the board.
No,
Thank
others,
you so
because
much.
I knew we were going to talk about this, and I that's the one thing I like to do after a game is talk to everybody and get everybody. And driving home last night, and this person said to me, well, Toronto, you were probably going to lose in the second overtime anyway, so go for the kill shot. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. But I had no problem, absolutely zero problem with what RJ did.
I think the collective confidence kind of was deflated when Scottie went out. You know, it's you look around, you have Scottie on your team, and you all of a sudden feel this confidence because he can do so many different things on the floor. And then when he went out, you look around, you're like, oh, it's just us out here. We're young. We haven't beat the defending champ or the champs from 2 years ago before, and I think that there was just this. They got away from what got them successful when he went down, and it's just a growing pain.
Yeah, and that's part of adversity. Now you're going to face this team without Scottie. What are you going to do about it? And almost won it, had a chance to win it, but you're going to look back and learn because that situation may happen again.
And Ash, I know he had the 3 turnovers late in the game,
Yeah.
but this is a guy that when you watch him, he can change the game on both ends of the floor.
A multitude of ways, 1,000%. And it wasn't the best offensively in key moments at times for him, but he didn't put his head down. He didn't say, oh, well, next time down the floor. At one point, he chased down a block that was exceptional.
After his turnover,
That was incredible.
And then
you
the
don't
second
see that
time,
play.
you don't see it that often except if you're LeBron James on multiple occasions. But then additionally, there was a turnover. And again, everyone chasing back in transition. The lob goes over the top to Denver, goes out of bounds. Okay, so we're still net neutral, right?
Yeah.
So the third turnover, of course, you want to make sure that you're negating those opportunities, especially for Scottie. I think you talk about the young core. He's played a lot of basketball in the NBA as well. So yes, age, of course, but in terms of experience, like you're the guy on this team now, so you need to leave those errant passes to the real youngsters, if you will.
All right, going to pause the conversation now. Let's hear from head coach Darko Sound after the game.
You have to be pretty pleased with the effort you guys had and maybe what flipped in overtime that turned a game that was winnable into a loss.
Yeah, I told guys that I don't believe in moral victories. I believe in winning, and I thought we competed for the big part of the game, for the most of the part of the game. We competed the right way, and we gave it all we had tonight. A couple of mistakes here and there, a couple of missed shots, and then free throws, some timely rebounding that they had, and they decided the opponent. I think it's going to be, through games like this, we're going to grow. Through games like this, we're going to get better. What I told guys is like that our effort and energy that cannot waver. Like we got to be this type of team that we're disruptive disruptive and then making it hard on our opponents and then playing to our identity offensively. It's always like 3 weeks without playing. You just never know how the player is going to how he's going to look on the court. I thought that he competed really hard. He got a little bit winded there towards the end of the game. We tried to keep his minutes limited tonight as well, but I thought that for a big part, like he looked good, and I think he's going to pick up quickly with the rest of the team.
Welcome back to Raptors Today. Ashley Docking, Paul Jones, Randy Urban, sitting back. Sorry, I got to sit back.
Sit back and relax. Take a second.
Sit back for the camera.
When I'm watching the Raptors, I'm excited about the point guard depth, Ashley. This is, Quickly's out. You got Jamal Shead playing great. You got Davion Mitchell playing great. I mean, Shead is outperforming his draft pick like you wouldn't believe.
We love somebody who shoots their coverage, right? You love seeing someone like, oh, he's like a 5, he's dating a 10. How'd that happen? We have questions. There's intrigue there. We want to know more about this person. And so I'm not saying.
Welcome to my life.
Was that
Randy's
a personal
like,
shot?
Is it my autobiography?
There's two guys here. Is that a personal shot?
If you take it personal, I don't know, take that up with Jesus, because I was not talking about either of you.
Bob Marley, who the cap fit, right?
But my point being is that you always like when somebody kind of exceeds expectations, especially in a position where you could always use a little bit more help. And as you mentioned, there's injury trouble abound for the Toronto Raptors preseason and now in the regular season. And Shead in particular, the one thing I like about him is 2 games ago against Philadelphia, he had 7 turnovers. Yikes, that's a lot. But now he had 1 in this next game. Of course, the minutes were a little bit different. Maybe the usage is not the same, but you're making those incremental changes game by game, and we're able to see that in real time. That is what I love to see.
If he doesn't get hurt, his team is going further in the tournament.
Yeah.
And I love, you were going to say something?
Well, him going at Russ. Like, he's not afraid of Russ. No. Like, I love that. He's not afraid of anybody.
First of all, he's not afraid of it. He played for Kelvin Sampson in Houston, okay? 2, in this move afoot to draft all these young guys who are one and done, I'm okay with a 3-4 year guy that has learned how to play in college, that's mature a little bit. Jamal Shead understands who he is. Mm-hmm. People go, wow, he's a small guard. Yeah, he's been small his whole life, and he understands how to play.
Got that great floater.
He's got that little push.
He's a short king,
He's got the floater. He understands how to use angles, his body in the lane. Mm-hmm. And then you look at both of those guys combine their production, and you are not backing down a step defensively with those guys. Mm-hmm. Like, you think Jamal Shead, I know Russell Westbrook's an MVP and has had a long career. You think this kid is going to back down?
No.
He sees that as a challenge. Oh, okay, Russ.
And he said something to Russ when Russ tried to post him up, and he walked away saying something. Russ was like, what? What'd you say? Like, Russ was ready to go again. Like, and I love... it's the good and bad of Russ in that moment. But
we saw it with Kyle Lowry.
Yeah.
We saw it with Fred. And maybe it's basketball little man complex. I see it with Mitchell. I see it with Shead. When you try to make it personal and post that guy up, it's like, oh, so you think you can post me up because I'm only this size?
Yeah.
No, you're going to get all you can handle and more.
And Ash, Davion Mitchell, when you see him live, he's faster than you think he is. Like, this guy, he's
Have you ever seen faster feet?
No, this guy is an athlete.
Yes.
Man.
I loved his decisiveness.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that whether or not it was the right or wrong choice in the moment, in any given moment, he wasn't second guessing what he wanted to do. And so that's teachable. Hey, listen, did you look at this? Did you look at this? Did you see the numbers? Did you see who you had? Sure, we can work on the semantics later. But he did it in the blink of an eye. He got the ball and he already knew his plan of attack, or if he was passing out of it. The one thing that I will say is I thought he took to the air a couple times without a plan in place, trying to get out of a jam or try and look for a pass or something like that. It ended up working out. That can cause some problems long term. Mm-hmm. But I did love his fearlessness. We were pointing out, I was talking about, I think in the last 2 minutes, he drove to the bucket, he missed. Do you want him to do that in those moments? Maybe, maybe not. He comes back and hits a 3 though. And so, again, he's not shy. He's not afraid of those moments.
All right, going to pause it there. Davion Mitchell spoke after the game. Let's hear from him now.
As a young team, what can you take out of a game like this against a team like that?
Yeah, I think that, like you said, they're a championship team. That starting 5 has been playing. They played in the finals before, so I think that I mean, limiting the turnovers. I think I had a lot of turnovers today, unforced too. That could have led to points. Just me making the easy reads. We probably could have scored, but me just trying to do too much. So I just put that on myself with too many turnovers.
What have you made of Jamal Shead's play so far?
Amazing. I think that he's learned a lot. I mean, I'm telling him to be aggressive, and he's telling me to be aggressive too. So I love when he be aggressive because, I mean, he's faster than a lot of people. He can get in the paint. He knows to make the right read. He's a really good player.
Quite a few times you guys scored on Grady coming off the flare and then going as the stack screener.
Yeah.
There was the back cut from Oshai. There was Grady's back cut. Mm-hmm. What are you picking up from that play that Grady is doing so well to help kind of, like, I guess, loosen up the screws for you guys to score? And how does it, I mean,
he's just such a threat shooting the ball. And a lot of teams, we know they're going to go over. And if they get clipped by the screen a little bit and they try to go over and they get clipped, it's a wide open layup. I mean, if they go under, I'm going to throw it to him. He's going to hit the shot or he's going to shoot the shot. You know what I'm saying? So they don't want that. So, I mean, it's a tough regard. Usually if the corner man is in a little bit, it's kind of hard to that play, but sometimes he falls asleep, so that layup is there. So it's a tough play. It's a tough play to guard.